For the past 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, Nigeria has been having challenges that are beckoning and waiting for answers and solutions. That is why we are bringing to you our program, State of the Nation. And this is going to come up on our flagship program this morning on ITV. I am hereby inviting you to join me, Bola Bakare, your host, on State of the Nation, so that we can hasten the motions that brings national development. It's going to be a regular basis on Tuesdays. Make it a date with me. I'll be there waiting for you, and then we shall discuss Nigeria on an holistic level. Welcome back. On this segment of our program, we are going to delve into a factor that drives life in itself, keeps life moving, keeps us informed, keeps us up to speed. What am I talking about here? I'm talking about information. And when you talk about information, you talk about media, one of which is where you're looking at me now. We call this electronic media. If you're reading papers, that is called print media. And for what you all go into these days, the social media, that is all there for everyone. Now there is social media, there is new media. And also there is the radio. They are all formed, they are all mediums of information dissemination. Little wonder we call the collective media information dissemination. And this morning, the element and importance of information is what we are going to tell you. And nothing on earth, I'll say that again, nothing on earth that does not have its challenges. So what we're going to discuss this morning is media information dissemination, the challenges therein. We will tell you the challenges we go through. We will tell you how much we try to get across to you. And also, maybe our guests will take care of that, how much of a response we are getting from you. With us in the studio is Dr. Austin Maho. He is a media personality, he is a publisher, he is in it. He is in print, he is in social, he is in electronic. You name all forms of media, he is into it. He is even, at times, he lectures students in journalism. My brother, welcome to the program.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much.
Great to be here.
Right.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the program.
And the co-host here is Dominic Oyemese. My brother, you're welcome too. What we're discussing this morning, like I said in my intro, is that element of information. Not just information itself. Information is key to everything that runs life. The government will have to inform us about what they're doing. A man will have to tell his wife in the house what he has done for the day. And then a lot of banterings here and there.
Information is key.
It's key. Like you rightly said, it is key. Now let us look at the parameters of information, because it is our business. There is information, there is misinformation, there is disinformation, there is propaganda. And there's a new one now with the incoming of social media, what we call fake news. Now we have 5 parameters of information dissemination. As a man who is in the media, what do you think we should do to make sure that we get the right information to the populace?
We are in an election season.
Of course.
And we know information is very important.
Of course.
You know, at times, we would like to say information is life. Without information, you know, the people will be blundering in the dark.
Yeah, of course.
That's why I say information is life, information is light. I'll give you a typical example. Like I said, we're in an election season. All the candidates, the presidential candidates, the House of Rep candidate, the senatorial candidate, the governorship candidate, down the line, I can say, for instance, that whatever information I have about this candidate is information that was given to me by the media. That's where the media is very important. I've never met a Tinubu, for instance, one-on-one and related with him, or an article, or a Peter Obi one-on-one and related with them one-on-one to be able to assess their character and who they are actually as individuals. Whatever is my opinion about these candidates is based on the information I've received from them from the media. That is why the media is very important in a democracy. And by the media is important, information dissemination is important in democracy. And by extension, the media is very important in any democracy. In fact, when you talk about democracy and the media, they are like Siamese twins. You can't separate one from the other.
Okay.
Because it is the information we have in a democratic setting that enables us to be active participants in the democratic process. Without information, without the media, information which the media endears, without information and the media, you find out that we cannot be active participants in the democratic process. And by extension, you don't really have a democracy. It is the media, it is proper information dissemination that makes for what you call a democracy. We can go on and on to say that is why, because the media is so important, at times we know we'll call it the watchdog of society or the fourth estate of the realm, unofficially. That is why the media has constitutional recognition. Like go to section 22 of the 1999 Constitution, which says the media and all agencies of mass communication shall at all times monitor government on behalf of the government. So we now find out that the media is like a stopgap. The media plays the role of gathering information from the public, like a feedback mechanism. Of course. Information from the people and feed it back to the government, and information from the government and give it back to the people. That is why we are able to, in an election period like this, to say, look, the government in power have done very well, let's support them. Or the government in power have not done very well, let's change the government. So the media plays that critical role. And coming back to your question, and that is why the right information, the media as purveyor of that information must always give the right information to the people to be able to make informed choices in the democratic process. And when we, as a media, fail in that honest responsibility, we fail the system, we fail democracy. And like I said, the media is the bedrock. Information is very important when it comes to a properly functioning democratic system of government. But the question is, are we doing our job? Have we allowed what I'll call other elements to take our job? Like we talk about
what you just said now. Let me throw in one more call. Let me throw in another call. Based on section 22, what our constitution allows the media to do. My next question goes along the line you were trying to toe now. Okay. Now that we have that element of responsibility of informing the people,
yes,
all we do is to give them a chance to form an opinion. At the end of the day, when they form that opinion, what they do with the opinion, it's outside of our purview.
Yes.
That is one. The veracity of what we are throwing at them, we've already verified that. But my next question is, for every good deed, there is always a bad side to it. When our information is being badly used, how do we contain, how do we curtail what they do with the information we pass out?
You know, theoretically, that is why we at times talk about the concept, theoretical concept of the marketplace of ideas. Marketplace of ideas presupposes that you don't restrict the ideas that is out there. And the media is equally part of the cultural industry and the purveyor of the ideas that is out there. And we say at times in the academic circle that in the multiplicity of ideas, the best ideas will prevail. The best ideas will prevail. say your own. In the media industry, for instance, we know in an autocratic setting,
it's different.
It's different. I'm trying to compare autocracy with liberal democracy. In an autocratic system, it is only one media. Mm-hmm. And that media will always support the establishment, the government in power. There's no opportunity for voices of dissent.
There's no middle ground.
No middle ground. And if you add what we call the market principle to it in a democracy, if consistently you do the wrong thing, you sell a wrong product in the market will reject you. So economics will reject you and you die a natural death. So in the media, if your product, that is why we have multiplicity of media. You have Daybreak, you have Punch, you have This Day, you have Nation, you have ITV, AIT, channels, Arise. They are all there in the market.
Of course.
If you report and another channel reports its news, ITV reports the same news, you bring your own slant to it, maybe to satisfy a particular individual
or your target audience,
or your target audience or your agenda, is now left for the public to judge if what you are doing is the right thing, and to continue patronizing your channel through advert patronage, or go somewhere else that they feel has what we normally call more leverage when it comes to viewership, to attract advert patronage. So one way of correcting that in the media, correcting wrong information in the media, is the market forces. I'm looking at it theoretically. Whether it works or it doesn't work is a subject of another debate.
Let's look at the growth of Nigerian media. Now, if you're going to do a comparison, we are in democracy, and you talked about autocratic system of government. I remember back then during the military regime, how the media was being guarded, and now we are having this freedom of the press as it is now. Most people will agree that we are exercising that freedom, but not to that extent that we want, because even the freedom of information bill, we've not really seen it play its part so well. Now, if you had to do a comparison between the military regime and now that we're a democracy, would you say our media has grown to the level it's supposed to be?
So if we are looking at press freedom, sincerely, comparatively, I'll say Nigeria is a very free press. Whether we have a free press, you have regulatory body, and I think the NBC is doing an excellent job. The NBC, you have to give it to them. In terms of trying to correct or control content, which is within their purview, within the law of what they are expected to do, they've done a good job. And many at times they have to wield the big stick. It is on this same issue where some journalists or media houses, go overboard and become overtly partisan, which NBC, for instance, has issued a code of conduct for the broadcast media, just as you have the Press Council that has issued, together with NUJ and newspaper owners, issued a code of conduct, code of ethics for Nigerian journalists in general. So it is only when you run foul of this code of conduct, this ethical code, that they will the mistake. I would say the Nigerian media is free. And when you do a comparison to what we had during the military and now, Nigerian media is free. Comparatively to what you have even in most advanced democracies of the world. And that is why myself and yourself can sit here and talk. And that is why radio licenses are being issued by the NBC almost on a daily basis. And that you have a multiplicity of radio, television stations, broadcasting programs all over. They never really restricted ownership or say there's no airwave to give for radio station anymore.
There's always a ban to give.
In Abuja, for instance, I know that there are over 20 radio stations operating, and these are all sources of information for members of the public. It's not left for you to tune into the one you want to listen to that catches your fancy, and like you said, it's your choice.
Of course.
Have in a situation where you have the opportunity to make a choice and your choice is not restricted, it gives you some level of freedom.
Naturally, yes.
Which democracy ought to endure.
Okay. At this juncture, Let me now ask you something that concerns us all. Lately, not too long ago, the federal government put a hold on Twitter. There was even a time we were contemplating banning some of these social media, international platforms and the rest of them, based on the fact that they were not doing us a favor. They were throwing out unverified content. But the thing is, but we are media people. We can afford to tell ourselves the gospel truth. Social media is uncontrollable. What do you think? Is it controllable?
At times, you know, we see social media as an extension of life.
So it's a matter of opinion.
When you say social media is an extension of life, the question you now ask is your question. Can you control life?
Okay.
That because our life has been reduced to this screen.
To a device.
To a device, a handheld device. So can you control it? Even while I was in the studio, I'm there. You see that I'm watching video, I'm reading newspaper. You know, the media itself has converged. You talk about media convergence.
It has made the world a smaller place.
Yes, into this platform. And regulating it, which is your question, regulating it is not easy. And when
we're regulating it, we must, because
let
me finish the question. The question is
okay.
That element of fake news. Fake news does a lot of damage because most people, they are not conversant with the basic elements of information. They just see something, because I said something earlier, bad news is good news. They just see something bad, something derogatory. They don't verify, they keep sending it to friends. Before you know what is happening, it has extrapolated from one person to maybe hundreds of thousands or even millions. And it is fake news. How do we in the media, I'm asking you because you're a publisher, you teach students journalism, how do we mitigate? We're not going to cancel it because you can't take everybody's phone. How do we mitigate that effect of fake news?
Yeah, fake news. You know, the social media itself, when you look at the media platform, like Facebook,
IG, Twitter,
the most dangerous, which you cannot regulate, which people don't pay attention to, is WhatsApp. Because it creates what we call an echo bubble, an echo chamber of like-minded individuals.
And it's encrypted.
Yes, of like-minded individuals. Like-minded individuals who come together to share disinformation. No matter what they share on their Twitter platform, because they are like-minded individuals, nobody is rightly to raise the flag to say this is not true. They just want to create
within their own platform. Within that platform, they open for themselves
a bubble. So they keep their dream within that bubble, and nobody want to puncture it, to bust that bubble, even when what they are saying there or doing there is not correct.
But it is you said you used the right word. It's a bubble. It is contained maybe between 10 people, 100 people, or thereabouts.
It's contained.
It is not as widespread as everyday fake news.
But when you now come to Facebook, for instance, or Twitter, that is an open platform. I always feel that Facebook, for instance, has an inbuilt self-correcting mechanism. For instance, if I post something that is not true, and it is open to members of the public,
you'll be flagged.
Yeah, you either be flagged or within the post itself, because it's open, somebody may likely in the comment section say, this thing you are saying is not correct. Somebody may possibly challenge whatever information you are giving out there. So that creates some kind of
it creates a flag that can make
a self-correcting mechanism for those reading the post. If I read somebody's post, for instance, that is not correct, I'll flag it. Even if Facebook has not flagged it, I'll say, oh boy, this is right here, not true. It's not true now. This is the fact. And at times when you put something there that I just know is an opinion, I may ask you, give me the link to where you read it from. And you have the opportunity to follow that link and find out whether it's a credible source of information.
Yeah, you're just giving the answers I wanted to give to Nigerians about assimilating information, passing the own information, and then being able to recognize or mitigate. That is our purview. That is our business.
That
We're
is
in the
true.
media. How to mitigate this element of fake news.
So instead of just like, share, immediately click your share button, think about it. Ask
That's
yourself
it.
questions.
That's it.
And that's why, of course, normally we always talk like you always, media literacy is important,
Of course.
in the social media age.
Now, if we're trying to correct fake news, we find journalists these days find it so difficult to get the right information. Let's look at government agencies, for instance. Most times what we do for them is merely PR. Maybe go to press briefings, they tell you what they want, and then you go and publish. Let's accessing the right information from government than what the people want to hear. How accessible it is in this country, because I know for times memorial, most times what we do is PR. Let me just be very frank.
You are very correct. I agree with you. I agree with you totally. You understand? Because I've had reason to debate this with a lot of people. If you pick an average newspaper, or you listen to the news bulletin on radio or television, you are going to find out, for instance, that 90% of the news content is either from a press release or from the spokesman of XYZ director or minister, or what Buhari is doing, or who is hobnobbing with the picture taken. Those are the sources of news. And you find out that when government is your source of news, the information they are giving is controlled.
Yes.
If the information is controlled, you call it PR. You are just doing PR for them. Because the story or information is not from you as a journalist, but rather it was given to you to go and publish or to go and
So how accessible are this information from this?
Yes, but at the end of the day, many journalists fail to realize. You mentioned it, at the start of this program when you spoke about the FOI Act, the Freedom of Information Act. We as journalists, the question we should ask ourselves is, how well have we used the provisions of this act to hold government accountable to the people? How many times have you written to a government agency to say, give me information about this? Because the act, the Freedom of Information Act, acted at two levels. One, it gives every citizen, not just journalists, the right of access to public information. It's a right that it has granted you. Then number two, it equally empowers or mandates government institutions to proactively give information to members of the public. They are supposed to have a functional desk, or at least a website where most of the information surrounding their activities, day-to-day activities, who they are giving contract to, how they are appropriating funds, how much they are receiving, they should put it there. But when we as journalists fail to use the provisions of this act, or to ask government officials how well have you implemented the information of this act by proactively giving information to members of the public, we too we have failed.
But let me add a caveat here. Let me add a caveat here.
Go ahead.
You said, by virtue of FOI Act, we have a right to go to MDAs and ask for information.
Yes.
You know it. I know it. In most cases, when we go to ask for information, we are not given. What do we do along those lines?
There's a remedy. You write to them.
Agreed.
You write to them demanding for that information.
Agreed.
Right? And where they fail to give you that information, you seek judicial remedy.
That's
you
right.
go to court and compel, and the court is supposed to give judgment within 7 days and say, look, give this information within 7 days or 14 days. And where they fail to give that information, the court can actually compel such MDAs to give that information. But the point I'm trying to make here is that many of us journalists complain about lack of access to information. And there's a law that empowers us, not just us, members of the public, to have access to this information. The point is, have we tried to use the provisions of that act? How well have we tried? How many times has AIT, Channel, ITV, This Day, Daybreak, Punch, let them cumulatively say, look, we have done this year we have asked XYZ public institution to give us information, and 99% of the time we were denied that information, or we went to court as the next step in the process of asking for that information, and the court didn't give us the remedy we seek. So that is why I'm saying that we have not. If a law is supposed to empower us as journalists and we fail to use that law, let us now know whether that law is faulty. We don't just assume that the law is faulty, or we are not giving the information because the government is acting in secrecy.
So a situation where journalists or media organizations, some are being funded by these government agencies. For instance, we know journalists go to events and at the end they get something in return, quote, brand envelope. That has already tilted your story to one side. So how do we begin to discourage that? If medias are not well funded and you expect a journalist to do the right story.
Who should fund the media?
That's what I just asked you now.
Who should fund the media? The media owner should fund the media. So the media has, if we want to go into that topic, it's a whole lot of discussion. You know, because there are people who are even equally say that if you do a survey of the mediascape in Nigeria, you find that those that have invested in the media, they are not really interested in the media. They are just using the media.
It's more of business than journalism.
It's more of fulfilling political ambition than journalism. Not even a business. But if you run it as a business, the media house, like in every other country we know of, advanced democracy, you are supposed to focus on your job, called journalism. There's the commercial section. We should go and look for adverts to generate revenue to run the place. Your own is to create content that bring in a viewership. Whereas the commercial departments should use what you know, there are levels. But you find out that in most media houses, they've conscripted everybody to, in Nigeria, conscripted everybody to go and look for advert before I pay your salary. So this one creates a lot of problems. I don't want us to dwell too much on the problems of the Nigerian media because there are many. And when we begin to talk, we'll indict a lot of people. But to answer your question, who funds the media is the media owner. And the fund is not government that should fund it. And it's unethical for a journalist. If you are well funded, you are well paid, there's no reason why you should go for an assignment and go and be demanding for what we call brand envelope.
on that note,
to be, if you are well funded, you are well paid as I want you to be able to do your job, you know, ethically, in line with the professional
Thank you, Dr. Austin Maho. Like you rightly said, one program is not enough for us to deal about media information dissemination, because it is our business. We are trying to deliver to the people. And that is why there are challenges along the line, for which we have been able to table some of them.
Yeah.
But the best we can do this morning is to tell you one big thank you.
Always a pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much. And from Dominic?
Well, it's a nice one having our colleague here. For most people who don't know, he's saying the truth.
Of course, yes, of course.
To be on one-sided. But it's a nice one. Thank you so much, and I hope we'll call you.
All right, yeah, Dominic. It's a pleasure.
Sure. All right. And